Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to this yoga practice with me today. In this yoga class, we are going to start on the floor and work our way up. So we're going to start down, rise up. This makes it a great class for the morning, when maybe you're tired, prefer to start on the floor, get moving a little slowly. You can use this anytime. I'd recommend that you have a couple of blocks. The blocks are going to help us allow our body to adjust and adapt as we move slowly from the floor to standing where we'll finish. You don't need the blocks, but they're a nice little add-on to the practice today. We are going to begin in child's pose. So I'll spin around to the side. For child's pose, you can get right into your child's pose, or I'll take a few moments to walk you through it. Start sitting on your heels if that's comfortable for you. You can place a blanket either under the tops of your feet or on tops of your shin. Separate your legs as wide as apart as is comfortable with your toes together. So separating the knees wider creates more space for your body to move through. And then use your hands walking yourself out into that space. And if you have the blocks in front of you like I do, you might choose to set your forearms on the blocks. This can be a nice way to allow your front body to melt more toward the floor. So as you get into this posture, allow your chest to release down toward the floor. And take a few mindful breaths right here. And we'll rise up a little bit. You can continue to use the blocks, hands on the blocks, walk the blocks out to one upper corner of your mat. Your chest comes more over your thigh, and then again, melt your hand down. This time you can use the block to help you reach further from the tips of one finger to the opposite hip. After a breath or two in that direction, rise back up, walk back through center, and reach your blocks to the opposite side or your hands to the opposite side. Melt back down. Walk the blocks back through center. And we'll come up to an all fours position. So if your hands are on the mat, they're right underneath your shoulders. I'm going to continue to use the blocks. It's just a nice variation. It feels a little different in the body. So I'll have the blocks with my palms supported in the blocks, my fingers hugging the block a little bit, still under my shoulders as I start to move through my cat-cow pose. So when we arch up, that's our cat, forming an angry cat shape. Looking for movement in the spine. And then as I breathe in, I release my body, release my spine down toward the mat, making more of a hammock shape, drawing my shoulder blades together as I look up. And a few more times, trying to send the movement into all parts of my spine. You might do more than I do. I'm going to do one more in each direction. And then staying down in this cow shape, I'm going to start walking my blocks forward. I think I'm going to try this without the blocks first. Forearms to the ground, stretching my legs back into Sphinx pose. Now in Sphinx, I'm actively pushing my forearms into the ground, pulling my chest to the wall in front of me, drawing my shoulder blades toward the back of the room, widening and a little bit together. A little gentle back bend to start. And then I'm going to begin sliding my hands back in as I roll up into my cat shape and all the way back down to child's pose. One more time like that. I'm going to slide forward, sliding my arms into Sphinx, using that as a gentle opening back bend, drawing myself forward, actively pressing into my arms, maybe looking up a little bit on this one. And then on my next breath, sliding my hands back, bringing myself all the way up into a cat. And then shifting, hips back, resting for a moment in child. Okay, I'm going to come back up into all fours. I'll draw my blocks a little closer to me since I might want to use them again. And I'm going to move into a lunge pose. So you may want to arch up into a cat shape to give yourself space for moving the leg underneath you. Or you might want to rainbow the leg around to the side, stepping it up there, giving it a little scooch so that you find a comfortable supported position with your knee somewhere over your ankle, foot stamping into the ground. I'm going to put the block on the inside of my foot. I'm going to help myself all the way up to a standing, kneeling position. Now adjust as you need to adjust. And that might mean taking the back knee a little bit further behind so that you're more on the front of your kneecap. Hug everything into the center. You might feel a little wobbly here. That's normal. We're going to do a little bit of a twisting here. We're going to take this to an open twist, which means moving away from the bent part of our body, and then a couple of versions of a closed twist. I'm going to start my hands right at heart center. Think about sending your spine long, so sending your tailbone down, crown of your head up, and then beginning to revolve from just above the belly button. I'm going to revolve away from my bent knee, so toward the right, moving up through my rib cage, up through the opening of my chest. And I'll start by keeping my chin centered on my chest. And then maybe I add my arms opening up into this twist. And lastly, I can turn my head into the twist as well. Breathing in here. To release, I'm going to bring my hands back through heart center. Come back to the front. Take a breath at front. And then I'll begin revolving the other way. Same thing though, starting from the belly button, up through the rib cage. This is going to feel a little more constricted because now I'm closing in toward my body. And then same thing here when I get to wherever feels like the place to hold my twist on this side. And open my arms wide. Palms can be up, down, forward, whatever you'd like. And perhaps I turn a little bit to look over the back arm. And hands come together, back through the front. And last twist. This time I'm going to hinge forward from my hips, place my inside hand, so my right hand, on that block. I'm going to put the block on the lowest setting. My left hand comes to my left thigh to start, or to the hip. And start to open up toward you. I can stay right here. I can shift and put my hand as if it's going in the back pocket. Or maybe you'll feel like opening the arm up overhead feels right. You might have to adjust the bottom arm so that this feels strong and steady and stable. And then one more breath, whatever version of the twist you're doing on this side. Hands down. And we'll repeat on the second side. So as you draw that leg back, maybe you take a little cat-cow in the middle. You can prepare the block if you're using the block. And we'll step the second foot forward, adjusting in the same way on this side. Coming up tall so that this feels like a tall, stable position. And then when I turn in this direction, I don't want to turn my hips. So I want to adjust myself so that my hips are able to move forward. And that will mean plugging my right leg into my hip socket, into the pelvis, and bringing the left front hip flexors a little bit forward so I can actually stay even. And then if you remember, we started with hands at heart center, began spiraling up or winding up into the open twist. So that's away from this bent knee, moving slowly and very intentionally. And then once my torso feels like, okay, that's the amount of twist, releasing the arms, maybe gazing to look at the lead arm. Taking one more breath. And then hands come back. I start to wind through to the center. Take a breath here in center to stabilize, continuing to draw everything in, pressing my front foot firmly into the floor, and then using that grounding energy to start to unwind to the second side. Wherever I get to, I'll release my arms, look back over the back hand. One more breath. And then exhale, spin back through front. And you likely see me wobbling. Whenever we're asymmetrical, there will be some balance challenge. Gonna hinge down, bottom hand comes to the block, other hand comes to the hip, to the back pocket as I start to close twist in this direction. One more version. And then again, I might want to adjust this a little bit more away from the foot, making more space for the body if I lift my arm up. One more breath. And hands down, leg comes back. Keep the blocks nearby as I come to sit in hero's pose. So hero is a bent knee pose where I'm sitting on my heels. This is comfortable for me. If it's not comfortable for you, you can take one of the blocks and place that right between the feet. You can take two of the blocks and place that right between so that you're sitting more upright. This, in fact, is a great place to meditate. If there's nothing feeling bad in your knees, it can feel really comfortable for the body. I'm going to sit on one block. Now, if there is anything uncomfortable in your knees, sit up more or put a blanket over the tops of your calves, in between the backs of your thighs and your legs. If this feels okay, we'll try leaning back a little bit, walking the hands back, fingers pointing out. You can be on your fingertips, or maybe you have room to lean even a little bit more back. So we're looking for space across the front body here, widening across the collarbones, the chest. And if your body is saying this feels okay and you have a little bit more room to explore, maybe lift your hips up a little bit, moving your thighs toward the ceiling. This will give you a little bit of a stretch in your thighs. You can even look up a little bit as well. One more breath. And then exhale, touch back down, walk yourself back up, and come to a standing kneeling position. So from standing kneeling, we'll do something very similar. We'll do a version of camel pose. I'm going to tuck my toes. Your toes can stay untucked if that feels better. I'm also going to put the blocks on either sides of my ankles. Now you see where I suggested having the blocks nearby. Breathe in. Take your hands to your hips. Elbows back. I'm going to put my hands as if in my back pockets. Send my thighs forward. Really the part right where my legs meet my pelvis goes forward. I want to keep this long, so I'm going to engage my thighs, pulling up, even as I start to bring my shoulder blades together, look up with my chest and with my head. And then if there's room, you might feel like you can reach back your arms for the blocks. Stay here for a breath or two. If this doesn't feel good on your neck, stay looking forward with your head, or if you feel dizzy. And then move your hands back to front to come up. One last thing, kneeling, you'll want to keep the blocks there. Maybe you won't need them as high. You can explore. So look back at your toes and make sure that all 10 toes are tucked under the mat. You might have to give them a little manual help like I just did. So yeah, the big toes will go under, but my pinky toes didn't want to get under. This is a toe stretch. So once you're here, I'm already sitting upright. You might find that this is way too intense. If so, walk yourself forward, lean on your hands, take some of the pressure off your toes. If this feels okay, then you can stay up. You can use the blocks for support. Now, don't be intimidated if you think, how is she doing this? This was excruciating the first time I tried it. I've done it a lot. It's a great stretch for my feet and for any of us when we wear a lot of shoes. It's great to stretch our foot in this way, both feet. One last element here, and here you might want to use the blocks to help you lift your knees a little bit. Hold here for a breath or two. Set them back down. You can lean forward and let your feet go. Give them a gentle little tap, really gentle. And then we're going to come back to that crouch again, but this time so that we can start to come to standing. So I'll still use the blocks. I'll tuck my toes. I'll lift my knees, but then I'll shift all the way back so that my weight comes to my feet. Now from here, let's just stay in our little bit of a crouch. And you can use the blocks to help with balance, or you can try to balance without. This is still challenging for your feet, but now in another way. I'm going to place the blocks on the high position as I start to send my heels toward the ground, keeping my knees bent and sending my hips up. So coming into a standing forward fold. See, I'm pushing down so that my feet start to ground. Once they ground, I'm going to make sure that they're a comfortable distance apart, that my feet feel really solid on the ground. I'm hinged from my hips here, letting my chest sink toward the ground, and I'm keeping my knees nice and bent. This is the first time we're coming to standing. I don't want to rush this. I want to stay nice and bent. Then on an exhale, I'm going to use the blocks to come up to a halfway lift. So halfway means that my back is about parallel with the floor. My back is forming a tabletop. And then here, if your knees comfortably straighten, you can allow them to straighten. You can keep them bent the whole time. So if you straighten your legs and your back starts to round like this, simply bend your knees so that your back can be nice and long. And then slide your hands up to your thighs. Use your hands and your thighs to get even a little bit more length in your back. Slide your hands up to your hips, elbows back as you slowly, this is the first time we're coming up. Stand all the way up. I'm going to move the blocks to the side. Just a couple more poses now that here we are. We've rooted, we've rised up. We'll do a few last poses. So take your feet maybe just a little bit wider than your hip width. Breathe in, both arms up. Reach tall up with the arms. And I'll mirror you for this. So lower your right arm to your side. Reach tall with your left and then over to the side. Breathe here, taking a little bit of a breath into our side body. Stay here, but lift the heel of your left foot, toes pressed into the ground. Reach to the side a little further, so longer on this side. And then press that heel back down, but keep reaching. You might feel that a little bit more. And then let the top arm on your next breath breathe you in and up. Exhale, release. We'll repeat on the other side. Breathe in and up tall. Exhale your left hand down. Reach even more with your right and then start to reach over. Long lateral stretch. Breathe here. Lift the opposite heel up for a moment. Use that to reach further And then push the heel away while staying with that extra length in your body. On the next breath, breathe in tall and release. And then you can find your mountain pose distance for your feet, whether that's closer for you or further away. And we'll finish with 3 sun breaths. Sun breath is just breathing in and out in the shape of a sun, a round shape with our arms. Breathe in, circle up and around. If you'd like, you can look up. Exhale, release back down. Arms can be a little front of your body. Breathe in and up if this is uncomfortable with your shoulders. Exhale, float back down. They can even stay bent the whole time. Breathe in and up. Exhale, back down. And I think I said 3, but let's do 1 more here. Breathe in, strong breath in, filling your torso with air. And then exhale, slide your hands back down and release. All right, so that was it. That was our Rise Up practice for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I have other morning practices as well. Click right up there. If you click, you'll find another one. If you like this, please do subscribe, comment below, tell me what you like, tell me what you want to see on this channel, and I will do my best to try to accommodate you. Have a great rest of your day.